This is the moment no one saw coming. A royal guard, famous for his unshakable discipline, snaps back after being pelted with eggs in front of a stunned crowd. What starts as a reckless prank turns into a legendary showdown when the guard catches an egg midair and delivers an epic response that leaves the attacker humiliated and the internet in flames. But how did it all unfold? How did this silent sentinel go from standing still to becoming an unstoppable force in just seconds? Stay with us until the end to witness one of the most jaw-dropping moments ever caught on camera. You won't believe how it all ends. Before we dive in, let us know where you're watching from. Drop your country in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic moments. Now let's get into the action. The morning sun casts a golden glow over the ornate gates of Buckingham Palace, their gilded details gleaming like something out of a fairy tale. The rhythmic sound of heels clicking against the cobblestone mixes with the murmur of excited tourists, all gathered for a chance to witness the legendary stoicism of the royal guard. Standing on the stone-paved courtyard, the guard is motionless, his figure a portrait of discipline. His tall bearskin hat casts a shadow over his eyes, giving him an almost mythical presence. The crimson of his perfectly pressed uniform stands in stark contrast against the gray palace walls, his polished rifle resting firmly against his shoulder. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't blink. He simply exists, like an ancient sentinel, immune to the passage of time. Whispers and urban legends. The tourists begin their usual game of daring. A young man wearing a backpack and a mischievous grin nudges his friend. Go on, scream at him. See if he moves. His friend laughs, shaking his head. No way. They're trained for this. They never react. An elderly woman leans toward her granddaughter, her voice conspiratorial. They say you can make funny faces, wave your arms, even dance in front of them, and nothing. Not a single twitch. Laughter ripples through the crowd as a group of teenagers film themselves posing ridiculously beside the guard, attempting to draw a reaction. But the guard, as always, remains a fortress of discipline, his stare fixed straight ahead. But then, a figure on the outskirts of the crowd stands still, watching. The mysterious stranger. The man in the hooded jacket doesn't giggle or take selfies. He doesn't whisper about legends or play tourist games. Instead, he observes, his posture relaxed but his eyes sharp. His hands remain tucked in his pocketed hoodie, his fingers brushing against something smooth and fragile. His lips curl into a smirk, amusement flickering in his eyes. They never react, huh? He tilts his head, glancing around. The crowd is distracted. The palace guard stationed nearby are too far to intervene quickly. This is it. His chance to put the myth to the test. His fingers tighten around the egg in his pocket. The game is about to change. The man's fingers tighten around the cool, fragile shell in his pocket. His pulse is steady, his smirk unwavering. This is it. With a quick flick of his wrist, the egg soars through the air, spinning, tumbling, its smooth shell glistening under the sunlight. For a second, it almost seems to move in slow motion, its path unwavering, destined for impact. Then, flop. The egg bursts against the guard's chest, yolk exploding across the pristine red fabric of his uniform. A vile, dripping streak of yellow oozes downward, staining the polished surface like a grotesque battle wound. The sound alone shatters the atmosphere. A sudden silence. The crowd freezes. A woman gasps, clutching her purse. A child tugs at his mother's sleeve, eyes wide with confusion. An older man, his camera mid-click, mutters under his breath, "Bloody hell?" For a single, stretched-out second, it's as if the entire world has stopped breathing. And the guard? Unmoved. Not a single twitch. No flicker of rage, no flinch of surprise. His grip on his rifle remains firm, his expression unchanged. He doesn't wipe the mess from his uniform. He doesn't shift his weight. He just stands there. Exactly as he was trained to do. The crowd reacts. The stunned silence is quickly replaced by chaos. Murmurs ripple through the onlookers, shifting from disbelief to outrage to nervous laughter. Did that really just happen? Oh my God, someone stop him. I can't believe it, he's not even moving. Phones whip into the air, cameras rolling, capturing every second. Within moments, the first live stream begins, the chat exploding with disbelief. Some tourists step back, unsure whether to expect retaliation or not. Others, the thrill seekers, lean in closer, eager for the next move. And the attacker? The emboldened aggressor. A grin creeps onto his face. He had expected at least a reaction, a glare, a shift, maybe even a scolding. But there was nothing. Nothing but that stony, unreadable stare, fixed straight ahead as if the attack never happened. And that only fuels him further. That's it? he mutters under his breath. His hand slides back into his pocket, fingers brushing against another egg. The first shot was just a test. The real game? It's only beginning. The first egg still drips down the guard's uniform, a slow, grotesque stain on his once pristine coat. But his expression remains frozen, his posture rigid as if the attack never happened. The attacker scoffs, shaking his head in amusement. "What's the matter, mate? Got nothing to say?" He sneers, his voice laced with mockery. His fingers curl around another egg, pulling it from his pocket and holding it up for the crowd to see. The energy shifts. Some onlookers gasp, while others edge closer, anticipation crackling in the air. Yet no one intervenes. Some are too shocked, unsure whether to step in. Others? They're too entertained, phones in hand, cameras rolling. They want to see what happens next. A second attack, the tipping point. The man gives the egg a dramatic toss in his palm, toying with it. He smirks at the guard, eyes gleaming with reckless confidence. "Come on, mate, do something." Then, with an exaggerated wind-up, he launches the second egg, this time straight for the guard's face. It spins, cutting through the air with precision. The crowd collectively holds their breath. And then, the moment that changes everything. At the very last possible second, the guard moves. Not much. Just the slightest tilt of his head, barely perceptible, but enough for the egg to miss its mark. The crowd erupts. "Did you see that?" He moved. He actually moved. No way. The egg smashes onto the cobblestone behind him, its contents splattering in a harmless mess. A single beat of silence follows. Then the energy flips. Where there was once mocking laughter, now there's electric tension. The attacker's grin falters. His confidence was built on one thing, the belief that the guard would never react. But now he isn't so sure. For the first time since this started, a flicker of doubt creeps into his expression. Because if the guard moved once, what else is he capable of? The crowd's realization. The spectators, once passive, are fully engaged now. This isn't just a cruel prank anymore. This is something else entirely. Some murmur excitedly. Others, eyes wide, whisper, "I think he's done playing." But one thing is certain. The guard's stillness is no longer a weakness. It's a warning. A charged silence falls over the palace grounds. The air is different now, thick, suffocating, like the moment before a storm unleashes its fury. The royal guard, once a statue of discipline, makes his first deliberate move. A subtle but undeniable shift. He leans forward, just slightly, but it's enough. Enough to send a shockwave through the crowd. Enough to make the attacker hesitate. For the first time, the man in the hooded jacket isn't so sure. Something about the guard's presence has changed. The air around him, once passive and ceremonial, is now charged with something dangerous. Something primordial. Something deadly. The attacker takes a half step back, an instinctual reaction he doesn't even realize he's having. A primal alarm bell rings in his head, a warning he's too arrogant to listen to. The crowd, once scattered and laughing, is now locked in suspense. They don't know what's coming, but they can feel it. Something big is about to happen. And then, the final provocation. The attacker tightens his grip. He won't back down. Not now. Not after coming this far. His fingers dig into the smooth shell of one last egg. The crowd sees it. They gasp. A hushed voice murmurs, "Don't do it, mate." But it's too late. With a snap of his wrist, the man hurls the third egg. His fastest, most aggressive throw yet. Straight for the guard's face. But this time, the guard is ready. The egg hurtles through the air, its fragile shell spinning wildly, destined for impact. But this time, the guard strikes first. With a blindingly fast motion, his arm shoots up, fingers closing around the egg in midair with the precision of a trained warrior. For the first time in the entire encounter, the attacker's face twists into shock. The crowd erupts. People scream, cheer, gasp, some even jumping as the impossible unfolds before their eyes. No way. Did you see that? He caught it? That was insane. Phones are whipped up, lenses zoomed in, fingers scrambling to hit record. This isn't just a royal guard standing still anymore. This is a man in control of the battlefield. And the attacker? His smirk vanishes. He staggers backward, his once cocky confidence dissolving into uncertainty. He wasn't expecting this. The return fire. The guard doesn't flinch. Doesn't smirk. Doesn't hesitate. With military precision, he flicks his wrist, sending the egg hurtling back. The throw is effortless, controlled, not reckless but calculated. A message delivered in the same language of disrespect that started this all. Flop. The egg bursts against the protester's chest, exploding in a sticky yellow mess, dripping down his hoodie like a badge of his own failure. For a moment, there is nothing but stunned silence. Then, the crowd loses it. Some howl with laughter, clutching their stomachs as they double over. Others clap wildly, cheering as if they've just witnessed a championship knockout. A few. They just stand in stunned silence, eyes wide, unable to process what they've just seen. The attacker, visibly rattled, stumbles, his hands twitching as he looks down at his egg-streaked hoodie. For the first time since he stepped forward, he doesn't know what to do next. The power shift. The game has changed. And for the first time, the Royal Guard isn't the one on defense. No. It's the attacker who's been put in his place. The crowd isn't laughing at the guard anymore. They're laughing at him. And suddenly he feels it. That same pressure he tried to put on the guard? It's now pressing down on him. The weight of humiliation. And it's only getting heavier. But it's not over. The protester, now humiliated, his hoodie streaked with egg yolk, grits his teeth. His face burns red not just from anger, but from the crowd's laughter ringing in his ears. He refuses to be the loser here. His hand dives into his bag, fingers closing around another egg, one last shot to save face. But he's already lost control of the game. Because the guard is already in motion. The silent counter. Before the protester can even lift his arm, the guard moves with trained precision. His gloved hands shift in a fluid, disciplined motion. An action so fast, so seamless, that the crowd barely registers what's happening until, clack. The ceremonial rifle comes down, firmly gripped in his hands. Not raised in violence. Not pointed in threat. But held with a presence so commanding that it might as well be an unspoken warning. A message louder than any words ever could be. The moment of realization. The protester freezes. His fingers tighten around the egg, but his body refuses to move. Because now he's seeing it. The truth. The man standing before him isn't just some palace guard in a fancy uniform. He's a soldier. A man trained for battle, drilled to remain composed under pressure, conditioned to react with controlled precision in situations far more dangerous than this. And the protester? Just an ordinary troublemaker. A kid with a stupid idea, a cheap prank that spiraled into something he never truly understood, until now. The egg in his hand suddenly feels heavier. The air thicker. The laughter in the crowd? It's gone. Now there is only silence. For a long, stretched-out second, no one moves. The air is thick, crackling with a tension so heavy that even the onlookers hold their breath. The guard stands firm, his rifle held in a way that is neither threatening nor passive, but something in between. A silent command. His expression remains unreadable, but his presence speaks volumes. He has already won. And the protester? The weight of defeat. His fingers loosen around the egg. His chest rises and falls in uneven breaths. For the first time he feels small. Not because the guard threatened him. Not because of the egg yolk soaking through his hoodie. Not even because of the dozens of cameras recording his downfall. But because of that stare. Cold. Unwavering. The kind of stare that doesn't belong to a mere security guard. It belongs to a warrior. The protester lowers his arm, his shoulders slumping as the reality of the situation crashes down on him. He's not just losing face, he's been utterly dismantled. And the crowd feels it too. The laughter is gone. Now they watch in silence, almost hypnotized by the sheer dominance of the unshaken soldier standing before them. The swift end. Then, boom. A rush of black uniforms flood the scene. Palace security, moving in perfect sync, their boots pounding against the cobblestone. The protester barely has time to react before they tackle him to the ground, his face hitting the pavement with a hard thud. Hands behind your back. You're under arrest for assaulting a royal guard. The crowd erupts once more, some cheering, some gasping, others capturing every second on their phones. But the guard? He does nothing. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't smirk. As the security team hauls the now defeated man to his feet, the guard simply resumes his post. As if nothing ever happened. And that was the most powerful moment of all. The guard resumes position, his uniform still streaked with yolk, his rifle once again resting in its proper place. He doesn't adjust his stance. He doesn't wipe the mess from his uniform. He simply stands tall, as if the past few minutes were just another moment in his duty. But for everyone else, it was history in the making. The crowds roar. A beat of silence, then applause. It erupts like thunder, spreading through the palace courtyard like a shockwave. Some cheer in sheer awe, others laugh in disbelief, and a few just stand there replaying what they just witnessed in their heads. The phones are still rolling, cameras zooming in on the unshaken soldier, capturing every second of his unbreakable composure. The protester, now fully restrained, is being dragged away by security, his head down, his pride shattered. By the time he disappears from sight, the internet takes over. The first videos are already online. Within minutes, the event has been clipped, edited, and uploaded across every major platform. YouTube thumbnails appear. Royal Guard snaps back. Epic justice. Don't mess with a man trained for war. Did the guard break protocol? Experts debate. Twitter explodes with reactions. I swear that guard moved like a ninja. That stare alone made the guy regret all his life choices. The way he caught the egg midair? Absolute power move. TikTok edits flood the platform, pairing the moment with epic cinematic soundtracks, slow-motion breakdowns, hilarious meme captions. The debates begin. News outlets pick up the footage, analyzing it frame by frame. The Great Divide, praise or overreaction. Some defend the guard, calling it an act of restraint and discipline. He didn't attack. He didn't break formation. He responded with precision and control, absolute professionalism. That man deserved every bit of that humiliation. You mess with a soldier? You get what you get. But others? They question if he went too far. Should a royal guard be allowed to react like that? Did he technically break protocol? Wouldn't total non-engagement have been the better choice? The debate rages online, but regardless of which side people fall on, one truth is undeniable. A moment etched in history. Whether as a lesson in discipline or a legend in defiance, this moment will be remembered forever. The royal guard's name is never mentioned. His face is never identified. But his actions? They become the stuff of legends. And somewhere back at his post, standing as motionless as ever, he knows. The world will never look at a royal guard the same way again. Epilogue. The guard's unspoken victory. The sun hangs lower in the sky now, casting a golden hue over the palace courtyard. The crowd has changed, fresh waves of tourists arriving, their voices filled with excitement and curiosity. But the guard remains the same. Standing tall, silent, unshaken. The yolk-stained streaks on his red uniform remain, drying in the crisp afternoon air. A mark of disrespect, perhaps. But to those who witnessed what happened, it is something else entirely. A symbol. A reminder that beneath the impenetrable stillness of these royal sentries lies something far more powerful than just discipline. No smirk. No gloat. Just unwavering strength. The guard does not smirk. He does not look around for approval. He does not acknowledge the whispers and stolen glances from those who recognize him as the one. He simply stands, his rifle resting against his shoulder, his gaze fixed forward, as if nothing ever happened. And yet, something has changed. The tourists who approach now stand a little farther back than usual. No one dares to make faces at him. No one dares to test his patience. They stare not just in curiosity but in reverence. Because they know. They saw the videos. They heard the stories. And they will never look at a royal guard the same way again. Meanwhile, a regretful exit. Elsewhere, in a dimly lit police holding cell, the disgraced protester sits slumped on a bench. His hoodie is still crusted with dried egg yolk, his phone confiscated, his ego shattered beyond repair. From across the room, a nearby officer casually scrolls through his phone, smirking at the viral videos flooding the internet. The protester buries his face in his hands. I should have just taken a damn selfie, he mutters. Final shot, a living legend. Back at his post, the guard remains motionless, watching silently as the palace gates glisten under the setting sun. A soldier. A symbol. A legend. And though he will never say it, never acknowledge it, he knows. The world will never forget this day.